Welcome to the Power Couples Rock podcast, where our mission is to build a collective community of marriages, where we encourage, inspire, and support one another in order to have masterful marriages. We're Carlos, Katherine, Chris, and Sonia. Please check us out, powercouplesrock.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We believe that one of the most amazing legacies we can leave in life is a great marriage. So we hope you'll listen, learn, and love the conversation. Let's power up. Welcome to the Power Couples Rock podcast. I am Chris, and I'm here with my most beautiful wife, Sonia.
Hello, everybody.
And, of course, two of the most favorite of my favorite people in the universe. That's right.
Dun, da, da, dun.
Carlos and Katherine Greene, ladies and gentlemen.
The crowd goes wild.
We've had way too much fun already tonight. But this podcast, if this is the first podcast you're hearing on Power Couples Rock, hey, thank you. Welcome. We've got a ton more, and we're talking about all kinds of stuff. But this is a special kind of podcast, not kind of podcast, a special podcast and different kind of podcast. In that, if you don't know, and you've been listening to the Power Couples Rock podcast, maybe you're connecting with us on all social media and whatnot, but you may not know that Carlos and Katherine have actually written a book. And it's a really interesting book and a different kind of book than you might think. It's called A Power Couples Journey: Building a Masterful Marriage. And Carlos just kind of told me out of the side of his mouth one time and at my son's football game that he and Katherine put out a book. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? He's like, yeah, it's out on Amazon, And I was like, you can pulled it up on my phone. I was like, dude, that's you. And of course, I ordered it right then and there. I was like, and it shows up at the house, and I'm like, Sonia, look, and Sonia was blown away. She's like, they have a book. I was like, yeah, Carlos told me the other night at Ben's game, and she was like, oh, that's cool.
I was there.
2 hours. Okay. 2 hours later, I walk up into our bedroom, and she is reading the book.
Wow.
And I haven't had it. Listen, full disclosure.
He's not
full
a reader.
Transparency.
He's never completed a book ever.
I have a lot of books.
He's got to complete this book.
There's not many of them that I've finished, but I certainly have a lot of them, including this one. And Sonia is a reader. She has lots of books, and she finishes many of them.
Shall we come over to your house and read page by page?
I would like an audiobook, Katherine. Let's
Story time at the Stones.
Story time before bedtime.
Next Tuesday at 5:00.
But what I really want to do, because she finished it in a couple hours and she was gushing, and the first thing she did was call you guys.
She did.
And tell you how great the book was and how she felt about it, and I could feel that energy there in the room after she had finished it. So I really want to turn this over to you, Sonia, and lead this conversation, because I know this means so much to you. So Sonia, if you would.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. No, I did receive this book and I couldn't put it down. It was very insightful. There was lots of fantastic information, and I have to say, you want to read this book because you love the people who have written it, and you're not quite sure what you're going to get. I don't know that the expectation, being first time writers, you're like, is it going to be good? Is it not going to be good? But I tell you, I couldn't put it down, and I think it was fantastic. So I would highly recommend that everyone get a copy of this and read it. But I think it's
not your normal kind of like book, right? In terms of like.
No, this, I think I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
You can finish, but
go ahead.
when you think about books, sometimes when you're talking about marriages, you come with, you go pick out a book and the book lists ways that you're going to do this and ways you're going to do that. And this is what you look for. And this is what you don't do. And this is what you are going to do. This is a story that is the story of a couple and how they walk through life and through situations. But not only is it that, it also does give you some very practical things to do, things that you, kind of ways to go about doing the right thing. So it's very informative, but it's also like reading a book on fiction. So it captivates you and it just keeps you wanting to know what's going to happen next. So there's a couple questions that I have that I'm sure are people who are listening are interested in. But Carlos and Katherine, what was the inspiration behind this book?
Well, we wanted to take out, first of all, let me say thank you all for the information of setting this up, Sonia, with you reading the book and kind of giving us the story. Chris, for you introducing the book and already going into what makes the book so different. So thank you all, and thank you all for doing life with us. For us, the inspiration was we wanted to put a voice out there in the marriage community or those that are looking to get married, but do it in a different way. And we know that stories captivate, that was your word, Sonia. Stories captivate people's attention. And if we knew we could tell the marriage story in a book, then just by reading the story and getting connected to the characters, you're automatically going to receive the information regarding how to make your marriage a masterful marriage. You'll receive it much better. You'll retain more of it because it's placed in story form. So our inspiration was to put a voice out there about marriages in a different format.
And I think it's very relatable. I mean, I think that that's what makes the story very interesting for people, is when you can relate to the characters. And I definitely found myself relating to situations that this couple particularly finds themselves in. Mm-hmm. And when you can go, oh, yeah, that's happened to me. And this is kind of the advice that you get. It kind of is motivating to work towards that masterful marriage and know that there's a way to get through it. Mm-hmm. So another question that I have is, what do you want people to take away from this book?
What we want the audience to take away is that marriage is real, and you're going to go into marriage. Everything is not always going to be, unicorns and
rainbows.
It's just not that way, because the word even tells us that in this life you will have trials, but be of good cheer, for I've already overcome the world. So we're already set up to understand that for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, that we're going to have some challenges in our marriage. And we wanted the book to be very real in that respect, that this couple, Keith and Carol, are having some major challenges. And so how do they actually get through life, get through their challenging situations, and come out being better on the other end? Right. And so we wanted to leave people with hope.
Well, and I think the challenges, and what I found with this book, is that the challenges are very much relatable.
Yes.
They're not extreme, very unusual, rare challenges. They're your everyday challenges. So in that way, you're able to identify and relate very easily with these characters. So,
and that's what we wanted to make clear in the book, because these are some situations we've gone through, some situations we've talked to other couples, and we've been able to digest that information and know that that's a real situation and be able to put that in the book. And also to know that a marriage is a journey.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes we don't take the time to enjoy the journey. We may look at all the obstacles without enjoying, like, when there are no barriers in our way. We can think that we've had so many obstacles, and that's important to look at that journey. And as you're looking at the journey, you're building something, and we call it building a masterful marriage. And that is because we look at our foundation, which is God, and He's going to be the one that orchestrates this marriage, and it's going to be masterful because we know that He is the foundation for our relationship.
If I may, I have a question for Keith. Oh, I have a question for Carlos.
So Keith is the main character in the book. Carlos is the author.
Come on,
with
you're
Katherine.
Keith. This is Keith.
Part of us, maybe. Keith. You got to read it.
You got to read it.
News flash.
Yeah.
Carlos is actually Keith. No. So, and I think for you guys and what you want to achieve for Power Couples Rock, you could have easily come out with your first book as somewhat of what Sonia talked about was like an instruction manual or a textbook, for lack of a better, or something that couples could use as a roadmap and, fill out here and do work.
A workbook.
Or, workbook or something
Yeah.
that they could use with a small group or, whatever. But instead you came with this, right? So we know what the intention would have been for all of these other things. What was the intention here for this book? What did you want to achieve with this? And have you thought about making additional books like this or doing, these other sort of more functional deals?
It's interesting that you would ask both of those questions. The intentionality was to connect with people where they best connect. And if you look throughout our society, everything is wrapped in stories.
Yeah.
Everything. Our lives are wrapped in stories. When we go to work, when we go to school, our marriages, all of them are stories. And we felt like that's where people would connect most to.
Yeah.
Is let's read a story. All the movies, they're stories.
Yeah.
Even documentaries are placed in a story form, right?
Right.
So that was our intentionality, is to
Yeah.
connect with people where they best connect. So the next book, from the people that have read the book already, are saying, so you're going to write another story, or we want to know what happens to the other couples. What's their story? Or how are you going to continue the sequel? So that was good feedback for us to say, not that instructional manuals aren't good or books are not good. I think that they're very good. They're very solid. But from the audience that we've received feedback so far from, they're saying, write another story.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So we're slowly starting to put the pen to paper.
Right.
And it'd be interesting to see whose story we're going to tell next.
You have to make the movie first, right? And then make the other, and then you do the sequel.
Well, could you
right?
see, Sonia? Can you see this on like theater? Kind of? Could you
series?
see? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I think you could. I've never thought about it. As I was reading, I wasn't thinking about it. But absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
practical.
it's a practical
stories that everyday life, everyday situations that people go through, and I know we myself enjoy a good story.
Mm-hmm.
I just immerse myself into when I'm watching a movie or when I'm watching just a great theater show. I'm just engrossed in the characters and want to know, their background. What are their struggles? How do they work through the obstacles?
Yep.
And as Carlos said, there are some great books out there that give you practical tools, resources, checklists of things that you could do to strengthen your marriage. And we've attended plenty of those and have those books in our library. But for us, it really meant a lot to bring to life just people so that they can believe that they can relate to those.
Well, I think it's a little bit easier to relate to those people when than it is to kind of put all of that stuff that you see written down in a book. Like sometimes you get information and you try to figure out how you're going to apply that to your life. And I think when you read a story, you can see that in play, as opposed to trying to figure out how it's going to work out.
We wanted to write the book. I'm getting a little excited now, but
oh no,
here we go.
That
We
never
wanted
happens.
to write. No, we wanted to write the book to where when people read it, they could literally see themselves in the living room with Keith and Carol. They could see themselves on the cruise ship with Keith and Carol.
Or see themselves like I did as a Keith or Carol.
As a Keith or Carol.
Yeah.
Right. So when
You saw yourself as Keith?
I did.
No,
I did.
Carol.
No,
Sonia.
I identified with Carol.
Okay,
But for
good.
the men that are the men that are reading this book may identify with Keith.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think you can, and that makes it even more real when you can put yourself in that character and know that you are dealing with the same things. And this is kind of how it played out for Keith and Carol.
So you guys are co-authors on this. How, and I'm sorry if I'm getting a little, tactical, functional, here, but I'm curious because I think it does apply overall to Power Couples Rock, in that, and how, as married couples, we need to work together and whatnot. How did the writing process work for you? Did someone just take a shot and start, and I have these ideas and I'm going to write it and then just run it by you? Was it, did someone lead in that? Was it completely working together and one person was typing while the two were just sort of like, how did that process work with you two?
So I just had this unction to write, and I just started writing about 2 or 3 years ago. I just wanted to write the book, just write. I think God was calling and said, I want you to write this down. And the words were just coming and coming and coming, and just filling in the story. But I always know that it's going to get better when Kay Hud, my wife, Katherine, puts her magic on it. So I would write, she would read and say, that didn't make sense. Or you didn't connect that. Why did you say that? So I would have to go back and do a lot of editing while she would read and kind of put her magic on it. Then once we had a good script, then we could give it to the editor, Annie, who is awesome. And she could really polish it up at that point. But I was the main writer. Katherine put her magic on it and was challenging me in so many of these situations. Like, you describe Keith like this, you describe Carol like that, but you don't say it again. It's just disjointed. So she made sure that it made sense in how the events flowed, what was communicated. So I enjoyed that. So when we gave it over to Annie, it still needed some more polishing to it, but that's the way that we worked it as a team.
And I wanted to add to what he was saying about even some of Carlos and I did retreats and workshops and seminars for quite some time for marriages. And some of the activities and tools that we used in our workshop, by us traveling from city to city, state to state, we felt like those activities were very powerful during the workshop and seminar. And so we wanted to implement some of those activities and exercises that we had done in those workshops, that it really went over well with our couple. And that's how we added and intertwined and weaved in some of those practical
So your real
tools.
experiences,
Correct.
as it relates to workshops and stuff with this particular couple,
Yes.
which is the information that you get in the book.
Correct.
So what do you guys consider the most important part of the book? Is there a part that's that you want really to stand out with the readers more than maybe others?
The love making. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that the love making? The love making scene. Yeah, there is a love making scene in the book.
Now they're listening.
They're listening. Get it? For me, yeah, that was important as well because we wanted to make sure that Keith and Carol, they're married. It's real. So we want to make sure that people got the realness of the relationship in all aspects and dimensions of the book in their lives. But for me, there were two areas in the book that was highly important for me because we wanted to disseminate information that would be helpful for all couples. And that was chapter 3, talking about the foundation of marriage and the covenant relationship and how to respect and protect that marriage unit and the benefits that come with entering into a covenant relationship. So chapter 3 was very important to me. And then also the preface. Yeah, that's it.
Maybe.
Preface.
Say whatever.
Preface, depending on what side of the South
or
you're
what,
from.
if you're from Tennessee, Georgia, whatever.
Tomato.
Preface.
Lafayette.
That's right. Preface. The preface, that was important because it laid the groundwork and the foundation for the book.
Yep.
And oftentimes people may not take that preface what am I trying to say? They don't take that as part of the book, but for us, it really set the tone and the stage for the book.
Well, a lot of times when you're reading, and I find myself doing this, lots of times you don't even take the time to read the introduction.
You don't.
And I think a lot of times the introduction will tell you really important information about what's to come and how they, an author went about getting to that point. And when you skip over it, you kind of miss a lot of what's going on there. So I've been guilty of that. Although I did read your preface on this book. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the preface in chapter 3.
In chapter 3. Okay. So I think the question that many of our listeners may be thinking is, how do they go about getting their hands on this book?
Woohoo! No, we thank you for your support in advance. But Amazon, we'd love to share the book with you all, and you could purchase it. We're going to be doing a 5-city tour real soon, so you'll be hearing more about that, and you can come out. We're going to be discussing the book and have a mini marriage summit around the book, so it's going to be pretty exciting.
Correct. So if you go to Amazon.com and look up Power Couples Journey with Carlos and Katherine Greene, it should pop right up. And you can order that. You can actually get a hard copy, or you could actually get an online version, the Kindle version of it.
And after this podcast is over, you guys are going to do an audiobook just for me. I promise I'll pay you for it.
We're going to do a bedtime story. I want to sit in a rocking chair. I want to be reading.
Chris is going to have his milk and cookies. Lay it down.
You don't want to miss reading this book. I thoroughly enjoyed it and read it in a couple of hours, and it's definitely worth the read. So I encourage everyone to take the time to go and purchase this book. You won't regret it for one single moment.
Thank you, Sonia, so much. Really,
the book's called The Power Couples Journey: Building a Masterful Marriage. It's written by two of my most favorite people in the universe, Carlos and Katherine Greene. We love you guys. Fantastic job. Well done. And go get it if you're listening to it, and just be fed by it. Any parting words on Power Couples Journey?
I would just say that we are so fortunate and blessed to be able to actually put a voice up and have a platform to put some solid information regarding marriage out in the universe, and to actually have it told from a different perspective, from a story form, instead of just the regular instructional teaching. So thank everyone for their support, and we look forward to any feedback that people can give us.
All right. Thanks. Power Couples rock.
Let's get powered up.
Whoa, synchronized. Thanks for listening to the Power Couples Rock podcast. We hope that you've been encouraged, inspired, and supported. Please listen and subscribe to our other PowerPods, as we are confident that they will strengthen your marriage. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. It's there where we can extend these discussions together, take these conversations and your marriage to the next level. Enjoy your day and power